Hello, hi, welcome back. It's the new year. I was away for a few months and I thought, new year, new video, old me. um, and it's 15th of January right now. Let me just check the date real quick. Oh no, it's actually 16th of January right now, and believe it or not, I actually finished reading 6 books so far. Though to be fair, many of those books are kind of thin books, so but still, it does make me feel kind of motivated to read. I'm still in that I'm still in that mood to read at this moment. And I just want to add, like, the first 2 weeks of 2026, it was okay, but there were parts of those 2 weeks in which I felt a little bit down, and I am happy to say that one of the reasons I ended up reading a lot at the time was because of that. And so in a way, the books really helped me, and that's why I'm feeling quite I'm quite pleased to to be talking about these books with you guys. So I'm gonna start with the first one. This is the first book that I finished in 2026. This is A Confirmed Bachelor by Arthur Schnitzler. So Arthur Schnitzler was an Austrian author, and this book, I think, was published in 1917. It was originally written in German and then translated to English by E.C. Slade. This book was actually something that my sister got me for Christmas last year. So, yay! And it's a very short book. It's pretty much a novella. So in this book, I would say it's a very interesting book that it would be best for you guys to go into this book blind. So I'm just going to very roughly describe what this book is about. So this novella centers around this man named Schnitzler, and he is a doctor. And at the beginning of this book, we learned that his sister just committed suicide. Now, his sister has been living a life of a spinster, and so the whole mood at the beginning of this book is filled with some kind of quiet melancholy. And I would say at the beginning of this novella, you certainly feel a bit of a sympathy for Dr. Schnitzler. Like, he is living sort of a low-key, quiet life as a doctor. Like, he has been working working as a doctor on a ship, and then after the discovery of the suicide, he goes to work at a spa, where he ends up meeting a woman named Sabine, and upon meeting this woman, right, Dr. Schnitzler kind of has a bit of an interest with her, but he is not really being upfront about his feelings and all that, though that feeling isn't particularly something passionate. But we eventually also learn that Dr. Schnitzler has a bit of a history with women. And so who is this person really is? At the beginning of this book, I felt a little bit confused about what kind of a person Dr. Schnitzler is, because we don't really know who he is. We kind of have a clue that he has a bit of a difficulty communicating what he kind of wants, especially when it comes to this prospective relationship with Sabine. But at the same time, we also learn a bit about his past, which kind of involves some women. So what kind of a person exactly Dr. Schnitzler is? And basically this book would eventually kind of slowly unfolds to us what kind of a person he is based on what he's going to do later on. And much of the decisions that he's taking will have something to do with this sort of relationship that he has with Zabina. I don't want to say much about the plot because when I got into this book, and then when I read the story, the whole thing just felt kind of the way that the events unfold just felt kind of interesting to me. There's some kind of uniqueness about this book that I just don't want you guys to get spoiled about that. But let me just say, I like how this book just kind of slowly drips information about the personality of Dr. Kreisler and what are the aspects of his personality, especially kind of like his humanly weaknesses that sort of led him to decide on certain things that he's going to do eventually in this novel. And I think the title here, A Confirmed Bachelor, is also something that struck me as interesting upon finishing this book. Again, I'm not going to say too much, but I personally kind of get this. I got this incel-ish vibe with Dr. Kreisler, and I find it really interesting that that is sort of similar to the idea of what this title actually put forward. A confirmed bachelor. It's not exactly the same thing, but I personally think that Dr. Kreisler certainly has a bit of that incel quality to him, especially when it comes to how he treats women. Anyway, I find that this is an interesting book in terms of writing style. I can't say that I was very enamored by it. I thought it was okay. I felt a little bit distant from the writing style. There's something a little bit icy with it. But as a whole, it was nice. It was nice. I gave it about 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay. So, moving on to the next book. This next book is actually my first ever 5-star this year. And it's a non-fiction. This is 84 Charing Crossroad by Helene Hanff. It's a very, very, very short book. And it's a collection of letters, so much of the content of this book is actually really short, and it's totally possible to read this within a few hours. I took like 2 days to read this book. Sluggish reader, okay? But yeah, it's a very, very quick read, and I must add that when I was reading this book, I was actually at a period in which I was kind of struggling mentally, okay? And I was having a bit of a difficult time, and it was like one of the reasons that I didn't really do any videos at that time was, I think if I were to have made a video at that time, around that time, y'all would probably see like a bunch of dark clouds above my head. Like I would be emanating all of these really cloudy aura, which is not something that I want to show in this channel. But this book is, it was a total opposite of the cloudy experience, right? This book was a ray of sunshine. It was warm. It was cozy. This book is about the correspondence between two individuals that happened that started in 1949 from the author herself, Helene Hanff. So basically, she was inquiring. She sent a letter to a bookstore in London who specialized in old rare books, and Helene Hanff wanted to ask if they had like specific books, right? And that letter would eventually lead to a series of back and forth between the author and also the staff who worked at that London bookstore at this address, 84 Charing Crossroad, especially with the staff member named Frank Noel. And the tone of the letters that they exchange with each other, as Hanff inquire for these different book titles, and the bookstore responded with it, and with the delivery of the books and all that. The tone is very friendly, it is very warm, it is filled with positivity, which was something that I desperately needed at that time. And the letters sort of continued all the way until 1969. Now, I'm not going to tell you, what would eventually happen, throughout this period. But let me just say, basically, it's just a collection of letters back and forth between individuals separated by the Atlantic Ocean, right? One in America, another one in London, and it is a great book to read if you want a some kind of pick me up. I certainly enjoyed this. It's like one of those times in which I feel very fortunate that I found a book that really fit with what I needed at the time. This book just came at the right time. I didn't know what to expect when I picked up this book. I just saw that it was short and I wanted to read something quick. As it turned out, it worked so wonderfully for me at the time. So yeah, it's one of those moments. Okay, I'm a little bit worried because apparently my phone is telling me that my space is running out soon. I'm not sure for how much longer I can talk about books. I have 4 more books, but maybe I will stop after book number 3. Which is this one. This is State of Emergency by Jeremy Tiang, a Singaporean author. So this was a buddy read that I had with Lindy from Lindy's Magpie read, and also Kathy. And we had this buddy read since December, and basically this book is divided into 6 sections, 6 chapters, and we sort of arranged it such that we would read 1 chapter per week. So we read it over a period of 6 weeks. Okay, so when I first started reading this book, I thought it was okay. Like, there was a bit of a sense of detachment between me and the content of this book, but eventually the momentum just sort of picked up. Like, I started to feel more and more and more and more invested with this book and the story. And I would say the buddy read that I had with my 2 buddy readers definitely helped tremendously. And I would say, my experience with buddy reading has always been like that. I imagine that some of the books that I've buddy read with people before this, if I were to have read those books by myself, I probably would not have I probably would not have gained such wonderful experience from them. But yeah, the buddy trip was great. And I forgot, what is this book about? So this is a historical fiction set in Malaya around the time around the time of British occupation, and also when the state of emergency was declared in Malaya. And basically what happened at the time was there was a resistance movement by a group of leftists influenced by communist ideas, and basically they're trying to resist British rule. So a bit of a historical context. Before they start to resist against the British, prior to that, a few years before that, around the 40s, Malaya was under the occupation of the Japanese. And so it was these leftists who sort of worked together with the British to fight back against the Japanese. So eventually, after the surrender of the Japanese, these leftist movement, they turned their attention towards the British colonizers. And so basically there was kind of like a war being declared by the British against these leftist communist movements, also called the Ma Kong. And this novel, it is divided into 6 different chapters, and each of these chapters focus on one particular character. Now, what's interesting about it is that this novel actually explores the effect of this leftist resistance movement on these different characters across different time. So basically, you have characters who lived around the time when this movement was really active, which was around around 40s, 50s, 60s, and we see how these characters just join these movements, and how the action taken by these characters, especially the one who joined this movement, how that actually ripples through time, and how that decision actually affected their family members, even their family members who live like a few years later, a few decades later. Those family members would eventually get affected by this decision that was taken, right, by the person, the individual who joined this resistance movement. Because one of the implications of joining this resistance movement was that eventually the communists would be declared as sort of like an enemy of the state in Singapore and also in Malaysia. And because of that, there was actually a crackdown against these people, the people who have joined these movements at various times in history in the 20th century. And so you end up with this like really fragmented way of storytelling, which are arranged chronologically, and there is certainly a thematic thread between all of these different chapters with different characters. All of them are affected by this historical incident that have occurred, and what makes it really, I would say, emotionally engaging is that the scale in which the decision that specific individuals took, like way back in the past, have some really tangible effects on people who lived like much later. So I like how the author just kind of connected those ideas together. And by the time I finished this book, I felt like the emotional core of this book was really strong. So that was the part that I felt was quite impressive about this book. I quite enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And certainly it is something that I would recommend if you are interested in reading about historical fiction set in 20th century Malaya. Yeah, certainly something that's quite interesting. Yeah, so I feel that if I were to continue talking in this video, my phone is going to complain and it is going to cut the recording.